Welcome back to the FirstDown Football Show here on FirstDownFootball.com and the FirstDownFootball.com YouTube channel. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button at FirstDown Football and hit that notification bell to get notifications when we post new content or go live. And if you're listening to us on your favorite podcast platform, we do appreciate that. That includes Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and iHeartRadio. I'm Josh Wilson coming to you for another show here on the FirstDown Football Show. And today, flag football season kicks off here in the Sunshine State with the first day of practices. And we're going to talk to Jeremy Hernandez from the Florida High School Athletic Association. He is the girls flag football administrator for the FHSAA. Been there for over 9 years now. And Jeremy's been doing the girls flag football doing that since 2017, so about almost about the same amount of time he's been there. And we'll talk to Jeremy about a variety of topics involving girls flag football as the season kicks off here in the Sunshine State. We want to say thank you to our loyal partners who make this possible in bringing you the FirstDown Football Show on your favorite platforms, including Jaguars PREP, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Foundation, ScoreStream, Teknovate Consulting Partners, BoxOut Sports, NFHS Network, the Florida High School 7v7 Association, and FirstDown PlayBook. Well, here we are. We're going to get into the girls flag football season. We're going to kick it off, and we're going to talk to Jeremy Hernandez from the Florida High School Athletic Association right after this brief intermission. All right, we're back here on the FirstDown Football Show here on our YouTube channel and on our podcast platforms wherever you listen to us on the podcast, including Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and iHeartRadio. And now joining us from the Florida High School Athletic Association is the girls flag football administrator, Jeremy Hernandez. And Jeremy not does just that means the girls flag football, a couple other sports, but we'll kind of get into that as well here and get part of Jeremy's background as well. But appreciate you joining us here, Jeremy. Girls flag football season is about to kick off, and the growth in the state, we've talked about it. It's been growing, and the last few years has been definitely it's been big growth. And with that said, and we'll talk about that as we go through this here, but kind of give us a background of your background and how did you get into high school sports administration? How did you kind of get into this? And I know that you're not originally from Florida, so kind of give us that background and that story.
Yeah. Thanks, Josh. Appreciate you having me on this morning. I'm originally from New Mexico, graduated from the University of New Mexico. And that's kind of where I got started with high school associations and helping out with state championships and things like that. My senior year there at the University of New Mexico, I was an intern for the New Mexico Activities Association. And then after that internship ended that summer, they hired me on full-time, which was 2006. I then spent 10 years helping mainly the planning and the everyday aspects of state championships. I also assisted. One of my bigger roles was assisting the officials director of officials there in New Mexico, Dana Pappas. That name's probably rings a bell, as she is now with the National Federation. So that's kind of where I got started. And then in 2016, opportunity opened up here in Florida with FHSAA and made the jump. And I've been here ever since, starting my 9th year now. It originated in the officials department for that first year. And then as changes happened here within the office, some sports needed an administrator, and with flag being in the spring and the officials registration process and everyday work with officials kind of dying down as it was the end of the school year and officials were registered. They're like, hey, you want to take on flag football? So I said, sure, not really knowing what I was getting myself into or anything. Not like as if it was one of my goals or my main points of coming out here. It was just kind of an opportunity that threw at me, and I said, sure, why not? Let's give it a shot. And I mean, I guess kind of as the saying goes, the rest is history now.
The rest is history. I mean, I guess you kind of laid it into the where I was, obviously you know how long you've been doing this and stuff like that. But what has changed the most about your position? And obviously taking on the girls flag football, but you've taken on a couple other sports since then. So kind of just how's that evolved for you over the in 9 years time?
Yeah, so as I mentioned in 2016 when I first started, it was primarily as the director of officials overseeing the everyday tasks of registering officials, getting them going and ready to get on the field and on the court and things like that for our student athletes throughout the state. And then 2017-28 school year, that's when they asked if I'd be willing to take over flag. And it kind of was just the officials and flag for a few years. And then after that, we had a few more changes. And they asked about girls volleyball, which obviously is in the fall. So they were wanting to make sure I could handle the workload of getting officials for the fall sports and winter sports, what they needed, along with a sport like volleyball that has 7 classifications, over 700 schools participating. And I told them I work my hardest and take care of those athletes as well. So now 9 years later, I'm completely in the athletics department. I oversee girls volleyball, boys and girls weightlifting, and I still have flags. So I guess you could say the officials part of it, my daily tasks is out the window now, and I'm specifically in the athletics department side of the organization here at FHSAA.
No, absolutely, and that's it's been interesting to watch how the FHSAA office has evolved over the years, and definitely your role changing that has been it's been fun to watch, so to speak, basically. But let's kind of deep dive into some things here. First and foremost, let's talk about the growth of the game in girls flag football. Obviously, that is the big thing that we want to talk about here, the growth perspective. I mean, talk about the growth of the game that from your perspective here in Florida, because obviously you've seen so much change in just the last few years. I mean, not even talking about the last 10 years. We're just talking the last few years. It's been quite impressive.
Yes. When I first started with flag in 2017, there's roughly 250 schools competing for state championship in our state series. And almost 300, a little over 300 maybe, that were offering it in some aspect, like as an independent or whatever. And now we're over. I just looked this morning, and we've gotten a few more schools who have added since our FHSAA conference a few weeks ago at the beginning of the month. So now we're up to 436, and right at 500 schools offering the sport. So again, it's been off the chart. It's been a whirlwind. Again, schools have kind of just taken the bull by the horn and helping each other out as far as what it takes, the actual expenses, because those are the individuals who know what it takes. I can give ideas as far as, okay, you need belts. I can help you out with possibly getting in touch with Nike for uniforms and things like that. But your everyday expenses that schools face as far as traveling and things like that, that's done there locally. And schools have been completely open in sharing that information with each other, just to show how easy it is. Whether you're playing at a community park because your local city allows that, or you're sharing fields there at your local high school, or however the makeup is, there's just so many different ways that the sport of flag football can be played. And I think that has helped with the growth of it. Is you don't need expensive uniform or expensive equipment to play the game. You don't need all of the crazy things that a team like football needs, or lacrosse, or things like that, all that expensive gear. So it's just been unbelievable, and it's been awesome to see. And again, not just the Florida, but everywhere else. I know we'll get into that later, but it's just been awesome.
That's where I'm going to party in that is what have the conversations been like with other states? Obviously, I mean, and because I know you've had many states reach out to understand Florida's role obviously it's been over 2 decades since Florida has since launching girls flag football. I mean, what have those discussions been like with other states that have come along, started up girls flag football? Obviously it's spread across different seasons. It's not just one particular season, like how tackle football is in the fall, or girls volleyball for that instance. But girls flag, it's kind of spread around, but other states are looking at us for guidance.
Correct. Obviously, before NFHS took over and produced the rule books, it was more of what rules do you play with? Can we have a sample of your rule book? Can we look at that? Of course, when we played was always one of the first questions, because as we all know, there's a ton of sports that happen in the spring, and making sure that there's field space and things like that. So that's always been one of their questions that they ask. And then expense, they want to know the expenses as well. And then the other one is just, how did it get started? Where did it come from? Who played the role of getting it? Was it like the state office, FHSAA, that did it? Was it the schools? And so just sharing kind of the process and what's needed for a new sport to get sanctioned by our office, and working through some of those hurdles for them, and how it happened here and how it's gotten so big have been the main questions that I've received, and kind of given some groundwork for them to be able to take back to see what's going to work best for their state. As you know, every state is different. So things that we do here and how things are in place, get put in place here in Florida, could be completely different in Georgia or Texas or wherever else in the country, just because all state associations they're similar, but they're different in their own makeup and how they get things passed and through their boards or whatever governance process they have.
And you can, and with that said, you kind of alluded to about the NFHS, obviously the rule book, obviously, for a long time it was the NRSA rule book. And then, obviously the flag football coaches, and when y'all got together, developed the FHA flag football rule book, and now here's the NFHS rule book. And obviously, in my understanding, the way it was just it's been the last couple of years that this has been coming about. Obviously it sounds like that the Florida rule book had an influence with the NFHS rule book in a lot of aspects. And you were a part of that in that process. Kind of discuss that, how the input from Florida mattered to what's going to be applied nationally.
It was, NRSA is used at the college level right now. Obviously NCAA doesn't sanction it fully yet. That's another topic that we could probably, or will probably be getting into, in getting our girls and athletes ready, even if they just go and play club, was kind of that driving force. And currently NRSA is the rulebook that is used. So they wanted to try to make it as easy as possible for some transition. Yes, Florida's been doing it. We've been successful for 23 years now. I believe it is exactly 23. And so that played a role. Now, I wasn't obviously the overall deciding factor. There's 9, 10, 11 other committees for people representing other states. So I was just the voice of kind of what is best for flag, what has worked for us. And at the end of the day, there had to be some give and take. Luckily, there was other individuals on the committee who played NRSA as well, and they were able to give guidance and say that it worked. And at the end of the day, it kind of worked out in our favor, where there's not going to be a lot of changes, because 98% of the NFHS rulebook is based on NRSA. One of the funny caveats that I kind of learned is that NRSA actually took the NFHS football rulebook when they created the NRSA flag football rules. So they basically yep, they basically stripped the football rules out, so to speak, and geared it with same sections broken out. If you compare a NRSA and a NFHS, the labeling and titles of sections are almost exactly the same in what order they go through. And so now it's kind of just gone through a full circle where NFHS is kind of retaking back that book for flag football now. So it was kind of a little interesting piece of information that I found out as I was selected and kind of went forward with on that committee. So
that's impressive here. And with that said, but as we talk about the growth of the game, future growth here in the state, do you feel there's still room for growth given that most of the large metropolitan areas have finally adopted it, maybe outside of Collier County? I think that's the one big glaring hole. It seems like that's the one major metro area that seems to be glaring. I mean, it seems like, it finally, like areas like Brevard County have been filling the whole Bay County. I mean, Alachua County finally, in our own backyard, and finally things have finally come around. Do you feel like there's still room for growth here?
Oh, definitely. Like we're almost at 800 schools membership wise. We're at 500 that are offering the sport. So there's room for, again, all of our schools to be playing it and it be at kind of the same level as volleyball. I think as NCAA, it's an emerging sport now. It's just passed. We just had Nebraska. Believe they were the first school to, they're the first school to commit to the D1 varsity level for flag football. So I think as more of those opportunities continue, we saw that when NAIA started offering it and offering scholarships, we saw a boom then with some of our schools offering it, because it's just another opportunity for our girls here in Florida to make to the next level. And so, yes, it wouldn't surprise me if next year we have another 100 schools add the sport. With the way things are going, like I said, I just had 3 since FHSAA who've added and said that they're going to have a team, and that's been 2 weeks. So
and we'll talk about some of that in terms of the other future side of this. But for future growth, that's good to know that hey, we still got room for growth here, and we'll talk about future direction for girls flag football in Florida a little bit more later here on the show. But Jeremy, let's talk about with the 2026 season, because obviously a lot happening. There's a few changes with the terms of the calendar and stuff. But obviously, first things first, we talked about expansion. Obviously, a lot of new teams this year. I mean, when you have areas like Bay County finally starting to add, a lot more Brevard County starting to add, and then you start filling in certain holes in certain areas, like there's some smaller private schools finally starting to do it. What I mean, how do you describe this growth in the way? Because obviously we'll talk about it, in terms of that growth obviously, led to the 4 classifications last year, and we'll talk more about that. But, this expansion, it's just the programs adding that are coming along here.
I mean, again, I think it just goes back to the culture that our coaches have built. It's easy to talk to them. It's easy for them to share information. They're willing to share information. Travis Gomes, Matt Hernandez, Josh Saunders, coaches like that are really leading flag football here in Florida. And it can't go unstated that our coaches here have played a vital role in that growth. And while I'm here at the state office and I see it on the back end, and people may think it's me and things that I've done, I'm a small part of it. These coaches have taken the lead. They're safety first. They want what's best. Our rulebook was it came from NERSA, but they played a huge part of it. They continue to play a huge part of it. A lot of the safety rules that we put in place regarding excessive contact and things like that, trying to avoid major injuries, concussions. So they get a huge applaud and shout out for the growth of it, and more than myself, I think. So thank you to them. I'll take that opportunity now and tell all of them thank you. I know I mentioned 3 by name, but it's more than just them. I was at FHSAA. We have one of the fullest rooms throughout the event every year, upwards of 70, 80 coaches every year. And again, that just goes to those individuals who continue to make it a welcoming group, wanting to go in and willing to help out those who are interested in it and wanting to bring it bringing it to their school. So it's just been remarkable to be part of. and I'm here for it. I love it.
And that's just one part of the whole equation here. Obviously, we get into the preseason classics, which, you look at what the Jacksonville Jaguars have done, and then what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have done. I know they all reach out to y'all because, obviously they get, there's the process, obviously, to sanction the preseason games and stuff and making sure everything's done correctly. Talk about that, what the NFL has really embraced, especially the fact that, it's not just in, the team level, but it's a national level, but just what these two teams have done here in the state for girls flag. I know Tampa's going to be over 100 teams this year. Jacksonville's going to be about 70, 80 teams this year. It's huge.
Yeah, these two teams, they've been outstanding from the start. Obviously, the Bucks started things off. They've been doing it for several years. The Jags have come in recent years because they saw the momentum. They wanted to keep it going, not only just for the schools in the Tampa area, Orlando area who are making that drive. They wanted to make it easier for those in the Panhandle to be able to get that same type of experience. And Adriel there with the Jags, and Zach with the Bucks, they're all in on flag. They do as much as possible. I've been able to work with both. When we were at Mandarin for our state championships a few years ago, Adriel was, hey, what can I do? What can we do to get better? He was always willing to help. Zach, now that we're with the Bucks, they're the same way. They've opened up their facility. I know we'll talk about that a little bit later. But people reach out. How do these teams get involved? How are they doing what they're doing? What does it take? And I give them those individuals' names right away so they can reach out for that. And then again, it's just another way that the sport continues. The younger athletes who are growing up can see that and want to be able to participate that and experience that. So we definitely appreciate our relationship with those two organizations, and they've definitely been another driving force to flag football here in Florida.
And that kind of combines what my next two couple topics here are, in terms of the regular season. And then obviously for the 2026 season, obviously regular season, they got another basically week kind of added on to the regular season this year. But that's also the state championships are pushed back a week this year. So, let's talk about that. You feel like the extra week, how important was that for the more room for those teams to work with their schedules, given that spring breaks are kind of scattered across this year? A lot of schools districts last year were more like, oh, we're going to have this 1 week. Most of the school districts are off. It's kind of more spread out this year with the spring breaks.
Yeah, hopefully it does help out. Again, not having girls playing excessive amount just to get their games in. Obviously flag football is a fast sport. You can play multiple games in a single day, and it's done at tournaments, but still just the safety of our athletes, the high competitive level that we're at here in Florida. Hopefully it helps and benefits those teams. The extra week gives us more ability with the Bucks. We're not the same weekend as the rookie mini cap, having to share the facility. If it rains, then they go inside, and we're kind of at a standstill for our event until they're done. It's kind of here's the facility. It's all yours for the times that you need it. And it's more like that state championship feel, and it's not we're sharing it. Yeah, it's not like a rushed event. It can be more of that first class, like the Bucks and FHSAA want, and hopefully that comes to fruition. It's not over 3 days because we have to split out our semifinals. We can get them all done in a day. They can stick around, watch each other, and it's that true feel of a tournament that has high stakes with every game that's played. We had last year. A handful of overtime games. We had an overtime Hail Mary win. It was last year's games were outstanding, and excited to be able to see how this year's games play out.
No, absolutely. Make a note, those flag football state championships, the semifinals and the state championships, Friday and Saturday, May 15th and 16th at the Advent Health Training Center. And that, and you kind of led into what I was going to ask about, the relationship with the Bucs on that, because obviously it's been huge. And some of the best attendance that girls flag football state championships have happened since going to the Advent Health Training Center at One Buck Place.
Yes. And again, that's a huge part of the Bucs. Their foundation has stepped in and kind of helped with obviously tickets and opening up their facilities, so there's not that extra cost to FHSAA renting the facility. So they've really taken it, wanting to take it to the next level. It's basically a free event for fans and family to go watch. They still ask that you claim a ticket, so to speak, just so they can keep track of numbers and they're not getting in trouble with fire marshals and things like that as of having too many in the actual facility. But the Friday, Saturday games, you claim your ticket, you walk in, no additional costs, no parking costs. So again, that's them, that's the Bucs and their foundation wanting to continue the growth of flag football and keep those who want to take it in for the first time, experience for the first time, giving them that ability. Families of 4 or 5 that may have to make a decision of just mom and dad going, or mom and a sibling, or a dad and a sibling, having to keeps them from having to make those decisions, and the whole family can go and have a good time. So again, that's the Bucs and their foundation wanting to take charge and make sure that flag football can be experienced by anybody and everybody that wants to take it in that weekend.
No, absolutely here. And again, that's May 15th and 16th at the Advent Health Training Center down there in Tampa. Great facility. It's definitely nice when the heat gets 85, 90 degrees in the middle of May, or that thing called summer thunderstorm starts popping up.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to worry about that. No weather delays.
No, it was, I think 2 years ago, our crew in Tallahassee for beach volleyball, they had that tornado that
I remember
through.
that was horrible.
They're in the middle of no man's land trying to hide from a tornado and having delays and having to deal with that, and we're in a nice facility not having to worry about that, thankfully. But yeah, like you said, we're very grateful and we don't have to worry about delays. Games go on schedule. Now, if there's a delay due to overtime or just how long a game is taken, that's a different story. But for the most part, the times that are put on the website, that's the time that we're starting, because we're not having to deal with Mother Nature and anything like that. So that's been very helpful.
Absolutely. And with that said, let's go about the future direction of girls flag football in Florida. Obviously, we kind of leaned into a little bit about that in terms of for future growth. But first things first, Jeremy, classification expansion. Obviously, we went from 2 to 4 last year. That marked the second expansion in girls flag football in the classifications over the last decade. I guess the question of my thought, maybe a few coaches out there, do you think we could see an eventual 5th classification for flag come about because of the number of teams that have added on? Because you said we're sitting around like 430 now in terms of 4 classifications, 500 right now in terms of if you include the independents. Mm-hmm. A lot of those independents could eventually go be in a classification themselves. Do you think we're maybe looking at that in a few years' time, or is it more like, hey, we're at 4 right now, let's kind of manage that and see what happens first?
It's hard to say. Is it a possibility? I think so. I've just started doing district brackets for 2026 district tournaments, and we have some that are at 12 and 13 team districts like we were a few years ago. However, we will be in a new classification cycle. As you know, the board will be meeting in February to decide how the other sports outside of football will be classified. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see what they decide to do. We all know what they did with football, and now with open division and things like that. It'll be interesting to see what's decided and what comes from that. But is there a possibility? Yes, there's definitely a possibility. I just don't know what direction we'll be heading with our new classification for the 27-28 school year, or 26-27 school year.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And with that said, so for anyone watching or anyone listening, the question we'll slide that gently onto the back burner for right now. As long as I don't try to burn my hand like I did on the actual burner the other day. I actually did that. So, but anyways, game maximum limits, Jeremy. I know that's been a question that's been brought up, obviously, by the Flag Football Advisory Committee. I know there was an agenda item last year, kind of got tabled basically. Some wanted to go from 15 to 18 games. Obviously, when I first started covering girls flag, it was only 12 games in the regular season, and they went to 15, and now some were asking for 18. But looking back through the notes and stuff, obviously they said that some of the coaches are like, hey, no, 15 is pretty good in terms of safety reasons and stuff like that. Is it possible that they could still come back and bring this back and say, hey, we want to go to 18 games depending on what's happening, or is it more the consensus with the coaches to stay with 15?
I actually brought this up 2 weeks ago at FHSAA because I received a couple questions regarding it. Why isn't it closer to being aligned with some of the other sports where it's 25 games or whatever, like lacrosse or volleyball, things like that? And they seem pretty content at keeping it at 15. Again, that's only a small sample size, 70, 80 coaches at FHSAA. So can it come up again? Yeah. Our coaches advisory committee meets at the end of each season, towards the end of May. And it can definitely be a discussion that comes up. Obviously, we know, again, like we mentioned earlier, spring is a difficult time with testing and everything that happens there at the graduations, proms, all of that. So again, the group that we have on our advisory over the years have been a crucial part of leading the charge of when changes need to be made and when things can kind of stay status quo just for the betterment of the sport. And they've done really well. And so I take their lead. If that's something that they want to move forward, you're familiar with the process where it goes through the advisory committees, 2 years from the coaches to athletic directors. And then after those 2 years, it goes to the board. So I take their lead. If that's something that's ever wanted pushed and becomes a want, then let's do it. It's, again, their feet on the ground, doing it every day. They know what's best on their end. So right now 15 is the way to go, and then we'll stick with it. If that changes to where it needs to be 18, 20, then we'll take the proper course and see what the board will approve and allow. And as we're on the topic of future direction, just office, I spoke on it at FHSAA again, and the time of the season. I've gotten questions throughout the year.
I was going to ask about that because I know there's been some questions about, okay, do we move from spring to fall? And it's like, so what is the feedback so far on that with coaches in that? Because I've seen it also in the group chat, the statewide group chat I am with the girls flag coaches. There's discussion on that too.
Yeah, and I brought that up, and they seem to like, even with the challenges that it's in the spring. Moving it to the fall will bring its own set of challenges. Obviously, sharing time with football. While yes, it kind of makes sense to have them hand in hand, and a lot of states are doing that. Here in Florida, our flag football schools have been able to schedule games throughout the week. They've been able to set their own routines and their own around the sport. And then if you go into football, what days are you playing it? Is it double headers before varsity games on Fridays? Is it double headers before JV games? Are you only limited to a certain time of the week? And those are just things that we would have to work through on that side. The flip side, and I brought this up when discussing with the coaches, is the officials. Right now we have 880-ish flag football officials, but of those 880, 720 do football as well.
Goodness, that right there, if you don't have officials available because they got to go do tackle football,
correct.
You're not getting out there and playing.
Exactly. And so would that be a detriment to the growth of flag football if you're not getting flag football games covered because we have 700 of our 800 officials who are doing football as well? And again, that would be a challenge that if it was ever decided, we would have to figure out. And could it be a big challenge that couldn't be done? Possibly. Those are unknowns. So the other thing that came up was, obviously in the fall, we have hundreds of games getting canceled because of lightning. So if you're pushing
that H word that we're not going to say.
So if you're pushing games from a Friday night to a Saturday or a Monday, because you have to get it in, and you have set days for flag football, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, or whatever. Now you're replacing a flag football game with a football game on Monday. So, it brings challenges, and a lot of states who are bringing in and having flag and football at the same times, we have to remember they're doing it at a smaller level right now. They're doing it with 20, 30, 50 schools maybe. They don't have the hundreds of schools currently playing flag their first couple years. Are these challenges that they're going to experience as they grow? Possibly. If not, then they may set a path forward of how to do it that we can copy in a few years' time when they get to 300, 400, 500 schools playing flag. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what direction flag takes as a whole. As you know, we play soccer here in the winter. Most states play soccer in the fall. So again, it's kind of what works best for each state individually, and it's not like a all-encompassing, NFHS says we have to play in the winter, or we have to play all of these sports in the fall. States are able to do it based on what works best for them. We even have some some states play softball in the fall. So
absolutely. And I guess because I know like Nevada plays flag football in the winter. So, and then, that again, each state has its own challenges each, and hey, we see it enough. We see it enough with the weather in football. we want to compound it even further with flag football in the fall. But no, it's good that, good to hear that the coaches are like, hey, no, this, even if we have a few challenges in the spring, we actually have more flexibility to work our schedules and do that. I was going to talk about future rule changes, but I'm going to put that. Actually, go ahead and talk about that first before I talk about the other thing, changes in footballs, because I know that's been a hot topic. Future rule changes. Is there any future rule changes that lie ahead with the implementation of the NFHS rule book at this particular point, or is there anything different that because I obviously know that we just didn't I think it was last year or the year before that. The onside, basically the quote unquote onside kick, for a team that was down. I got the solid action a couple of times last year.
Yeah. So with NFHS, when we do go to that in the next spring season, not this year, the board adopted for next year. Currently, NFHS is reviewing some type of possibly an onside conversion to implement it. So if nothing's adopted this year when we go into our rules committee, then that would go away here in Florida. There are a couple other rule changes. The other big one is timeouts. Right now, we're the same as football. You get 3 timeouts per half. NFHS, after last year, it was decided to go to 2. Again, there's a couple states worried about length of the game and things like that as they're entering the sport. And so they, myself included, agreed to saying, okay, two is fine for now. Again, it was kind of, a give and take from all the states. It's not just one state overtaking and making the rules. It was a collaborative effort. as NFHS oversees the sport for all states. So that was one. And then the other one is uniforms. They're not going to allow stripes down the side. It's a single solid color short. Flag belts, the flags have to be a single color, single solid color flag belt that clearly contrasts the shorts. Uniforms they're not going to be able to be fancy. It's kind of what you see with tackle football or soccer, solid color. You could have some stripes on the sleeves and the trimming and things like that. So those are kind of the real major ones. Like I said earlier, 95 to 98% of the nurse rulebook has been taken over to NFHS. So there's not a huge amount of change for Florida, like some of the other states who are using NFL flag rulebook or rulebooks that they had just created on their own just to get going, where they were kind of in shock seeing some of the rules that were putting in place. For example, Nevada, they allowed open hand blocking. Like you could actually block in Nevada, where here it's just screening, kind of like a basketball style screen. So that's, I would say, kind of a major change for them, as their girls are used to kind of being a little bit more physical, I guess you could say, when it comes to blocking.
And what about the line of scrimmage? Because I know some states have had where it's like 6-7 yards off the line. We're only 1 yard off the line in terms of where, and I know that's going to throw some states for a loop too. Yeah,
that one, and then like the no run zone. Like if you're within 5 yards of getting a first down, you couldn't actually run the ball. Where with NRSA, you're able to. Where the defense lines up, it's a yard back. So that will be a huge change for them. Where that's how we've been playing for. Yeah, that's normal. That's how we've been playing. So there's not gameplay wise, other than not being able to do a onside kick. There's not a 3-point try either. It's just 1 and 2 point tries. So major gameplay rules really weren't affected for us.
But for other states, it might be the case.
For other states, yes. Really, the only real change is, if it stays in place, would be having to get used to playing with 2 timeouts instead of 3.
No, but for some programs, they may not even miss that extra timeout. But we'll find out. We'll find out when that happens. But last but not least, I know that this has been also a big topic with flag football coaches, and I'm pretty sure this came up when you were with FHSAA and all that. It's the footballs. It's the change from going from the youth football to this composite ball, basically. And some coaches aren't thrilled about it. What is the rationale for the change, and so how people can understand it, especially for those on the outside may not understand. Okay, hey, we're going from the youth football to this football that's been basically designed specifically for flag football.
So I think it's just the growth of flag football. Wilson wanted to take part in that, wanted to lead the charge, wanted to be different than football. So whether it's good or bad, I don't know yet. We don't know yet. I mean, we've had mixed reviews. Some coaches were thrilled with it. Some aren't thrilled with it. But I think it's kind of like everyone else. You have the NFL picking up on, they're wanting to drive flag. You have, obviously it's now with the Olympics, you have NCAA. And so it's just something that as a business, you're like, hey, there's another opportunity to make money, to have another product that's having to be bought. And they went with and decided to have a female specific ball for our female athletes. We'll see at the end of the day how it is. We've asked about a leather ball option. It seems like they've kind of been hesitant on that. I don't want to get really into hearsay about things that we're hearing from unreliable sources, so to speak. But at the end of the day, we'll see what's best. It's kind of like our other sports. Volleyball just went through a ball change. Soccer's gone through several ball changes, some for the best, some not for the best. And
we'll see we'll find out. Yeah, we'll find out.
We'll see how it goes. Luckily, again, for state championship games. Again, I know there's important games that happen before then. State championships indoors, so a semifinal and a state championship game won't be affected by rain and slickness. I know some coaches are worried about that, but those two games at least have that benefit. Leather footballs get slick when it rains and snows and different elements, and so we kind of have to we kind of have to go with the flow and see how things are. I'm sure if this becomes a terrible product, Wilson's not going to stick around and continue selling and making a product that's not
nobody wants to buy. Basically.
No, exactly. So we'll see at the end of the day how it goes. They're the experts in testing these the balls that they produce and the quality of them. So we'll see what comes from it and do our best to again remain a good corporate sponsor with them. And they do a lot for us and provide a lot for our association and our memberships. So only time will tell. And like you mentioned, it's been a mixed review. We've had some who are hesitant with it. We have some who have loved it. And we have some who are just like, we have to do something about this. And I've just been collecting feedback, giving it to our marketing team that handles our marketing sponsorships and things like that. So we can get that in front of Wilson and at least let them make a decision on how to either make it better or give us something else that
will
work. So.
No, absolutely. And of course, for those out there, any official FHSAA information on girls flag football, you can go to FHSAA.com/sports/flag and you'll be able to see all that. And the countdown is already on for Tampa as we record this. 111 days. This will, that's what it says on the countdown clock. So it'll be even less when you probably y'all are listening to this or watching this. But Jeremy, I definitely appreciate you taking the time to be able to talk to us and get the girls flag football season kind of kicked off and getting a inside perspective of everything from the FHSAA side, so that way people can understand and see. And it's like, understand what, hey, this is what we do. This is what y'all do. Y'all are dealing with a lot, and then y'all are dealing with, especially with this sport, a growing sport. It's not a minor sport anymore. This is a major sport for people to understand. It's about to be Olympics time here in 2 years. So.
And I would just encourage, if there are schools out there who are listening or hear this later and you're interested in possibly having a flag football team, reach out to myself, reach out to a school in your area that has it for any of that information. If you have one or two females in walking your halls who are showing interest, they may just be the one or two that are vocal about it. Have an interest meeting. I would encourage you to have an interest meeting and see what turns out. I know there's a lot of fear of it possibly taking over other sports, and we're not seeing that. We may have 1-2 girls here and there that are doing track and field or softball at the same time. But flag has really opened the doors for a lot of other athletes who aren't currently playing a sport or a spring sport. I've heard stories of, we had a couple who have shown interest, and then we have our interest meeting and we have 70, 80, 90 kids show out.
And that's what happened with some programs, and they just show up all of a sudden. It's like,
yes. And so I would just encourage giving that opportunity for those athletes. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen, and things will fall into place. But give it a shot. I would highly encourage it. Reach out to me, call me before you get that meeting.
I'll throw up the email address that you can right there, jhernandez@fhsaa.org. That's how you can direct email, or extension 300, which is the 352-372-9551 extension 300, and you can get hold of Jeremy that way.
Yes, and I'll give all the information I have. Nike has been great. They had grants a few years ago that would help out with at least one set of uniform. I'm not sure what the status is regarding that anymore, but I can still at least give it. The worst they can say is no, and then you have to figure out uniforms on your own. But again, we've had schools who use basketball uniforms to get started their first year, or they use their volleyball tops and have the girls get their own shorts. So
I've seen even a couple of teams use get the small sizes out of the JV or varsity football tackle program just to get something going.
Exactly. And so again, we mentioned it earlier and spoke on it briefly. It's a very easy, inexpensive sport to get going if you have enough to start a program. And I'm more than willing to share ideas and thoughts, and we have coaches who are willing to do the same exact thing. So please don't be afraid to reach out.
I promise Jeremy won't bite. I promise y'all. Well, Jeremy Hernandez, appreciate you stopping by here on the FHS Football Show. Appreciate it. And we'll definitely be catching you out on the flag football fields as the season rolls on. Appreciate it, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me, Josh.
All right. And we appreciate y'all joining us here on the FHS Football Show. Jeremy Hernandez from the FHSAA. We appreciate him joining us here as well, talking about the girls' flag football season and all the different topics that we talked about, and going from the NFHS rulebook to the new footballs that they're going to be using to, hey, what is the 2026 season going to bring about? And then also, hey, the future of girls flag football and the growth of girls flag football here in the Sunshine State. We definitely appreciate everybody joining us here and watching the FHS Football Show on YouTube, or if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast platform, including Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and iHeartRadio. We definitely appreciate y'all checking us out as well. With that said, we definitely appreciate, again, our loyal partners who make this possible to bring you the FHS Football Show, including Jaguars PREP, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Foundation, ScoreStream, Teknovate Consulting Partners, BoxOut Sports, NFHS Network, the Florida High School Summer V7 Association, and FirstDown PlayBook. I'm Joshua Wilson. You've been watching the Florida High School Football Show here on FloridaHSFootball.com, or listening to it as well on your platform. Thank you, and we'll see you next time here on the Florida HS Football Show.